What's going on, guys? It's Anime1 back here with another video, and today I'm here with another part of What If Naruto had the Jougan. So if you guys like the content in the channel, please subscribe to the channel, and while you're at it, also like this video. So let's begin the video. Minato Namikaze numbly sat on one of the large trees that's situated inside the Forest of Death, secluded from the rest of the world. The blonde Jonin's eyes were fixed on the picture of a young masked boy. There was a small cross beneath that picture in the bingo book, a sign that Konoha had recently updated, the Moon Eye. He always liked that nickname that his son had earned for himself over these years. Even though Naruto was listed as a mere chunin in the bingo books, there was a caution at the bottom regarding the boy's ability to surprise and turn the tables. He always had been proud of his trait, which his son had inherited from him. Despite all the evidence pointing towards the demise of Naruto, the father knew that that was not the case. Some might say that Minato was delusional as a way of coping with the grief, and he would have believed that too if not for the last conversation that he had with the boy. The years of their separation, Minato had tried to stay in touch with his son through letters. Since he was not allowed to visit Ozu, there was only one reply from Naruto over the years. The letter Minato was holding in his other hand, which had only a few words written in it. The words that haunted the Namikaze every day. Even if I was in a crowd, I was always alone. Those words were sharper than any blade, more painful than any wound. He could only imagine the type of life his son had lived that made him utter such heartbreaking words, and yet the eyes that stared at him from the photograph of the bingo book screamed ambition, a large one at that. He still remembered a single one conversation he had with his boy. Flashback a few months ago. Minato patiently observed the surprise visible on his young son's face, standing in one of the marshes surrounding Uzu. The guard Chunin was extremely stunned to see a Konoha Jonin entering this territory in such a sneaky manner, much less his own father. With speed unforeseen, Minato had easily knocked out two Chunin border patrols who were with Naruto and now stood before the boy. "What are you doing here, Jonin?" asked Naruto icily. His tanto pointed towards the blonde ninja. Minato grimaced. The cold words hurt a lot deep down, but he knew he deserved them, so he insisted. He decided to remain patient. Do you know who I am?" asked Minato, a hopeful expression visible in his eyes. "My biological creator had said that you were the one donor that helped in the facility in my existence. Nothing more, nothing less," replied Naruto, making his father flinch in the considerability. The way Naruto had said those words had left a little imagination as to what the boy felt in his heart. Despite expecting such a response coming here, it still hurt Minato to hear them regardless. "I suppose I earned that," said Minato, and gave a sad smile to his son. Naruto's blue eyes signed with hostility, yet he did the unthinkable when he lowered his tanto and sighed. "I give you one chance to walk away, if only for the unfortunate fact I exist because of you," said Naruto calmly, making Minato raise one of his eyebrows. "You think you can defeat me?" said the father curiously, and was surprised when the boy shook his head. "It would be foolish of me to assume so. However, that doesn't mean that I won't offer a valiant fight. I'm a ninja of Uzu, and you're legally setting foot in my nation, and it is my duty to stop you, no matter what relation we unfortunately share," said Naruto logically. His father his voice bitter. Minato smiled. It seems you're wise than most people your age, Naruto. Rest assured, I'm not here to harm your nations. I came here to see you, said Minato honestly, making the boy frown. There is no need for such phrase, said Naruto flatly. Minato lowered his head in guilt. You are my son, Naruto, said Minato softly. The boy's fist clenched as he fought hard to control his emotions. Yet Minato sensed the temperature going cold and the killing intent started spreading. Just don't. It's been taking years for me to understand and accept the reality of my life. I don't hold you guilty for what you did. Just like I am a ninja of my village, you are a ninja of your village. Soldiers, we are meant to serve the nation first, then the society, then comrades, and if it is possible, then themselves, and then, stated Naruto with conviction. Minato could not help but stare at his son with pride in his eyes. You have become an admirable ninja, Naruto, praised Minato. Despite the bitter feelings, those words made the boy pause. For a moment, a strange look arrived on Naruto's eyes, and that was all Minato needed to see. It helped lift a great burden from the father's heart. His son didn't hate him, and was simply indifferent towards him. Minato could live with that. I came here to congratulate you for passing the tuning exams and acing them as well. You are a tuning now. I know I have no right to speak with you, yet I wanted to wish you luck in your life, said Minato seriously. You don't have. Excuse me, Naruto, but the father raised his hand. Minato bent down and placed a scroll on the ground, and saw Naruto becoming alert. Inwardly, he was happy to see his son had kept his guard up even now. It was a trait of a fine shinobi. I know I failed you, Naruto, and there is nothing I can say or do that can make it up to you. But if you're ever in trouble, open the scroll, instructed Minato. And why would I do that? Asked Naruto skeptically, and saw a sad smile arriving on his father's face. I'm your father, Naruto. Despite everything, I love you with all my heart. Iciness and contempt in Naruto's eyes wavered, and the boy quickly closed those startling blue orbs. He pointed his tanto in the opposite direction from Uzu. You say go, whispered Naruto. Minato nodded, with a heavy heart as he started walking away. Even in Uzu, nobody except for the Uzukage knew that Minato was the boy's father. Kusina had also kept this fact much guarded secret, even in Konoha. Then a question arose in his heart that made the tall blonde stop and look back toward the sun, was walking towards his unconscious comrades. Why do you fight? Naruto asked Minato curiously. The boy stopped. When his back turned to his father, the young blonde glanced up towards the sky full of stars and the bright shining moon. To gain the strength to finally accomplish my dreams. Yuan could also say that it's the power not to take orders from people whom I despise or don't agree with, to be the master of my own life, to achieve true freedom. Minato was left speechless by those words. It was his turn to stare at his son in surprise. Nobody knew it, but those words changed Minato's life completely. They gave birth to his dream. The reason he couldn't keep his son in custody of his own. The reason he failed in saving Kushina from such a pain was because of the fact that he had been helpless and weak as a mere jonin all those years ago, compared to the Kage, who made the decisions. Minato had been powerless. On that day, Namikaze Minato had pledged to himself and to the world. Naruto, I don't know where you are right now, but one day I'll win the entire world for you. With those determination words, the Namikaze got back on his feet and started walking away. The World War had started, and he would make sure Konoha emerged as the true victor, which would completely pave the way for accomplishing his dreams. Though, if there was one thing that Minato knew for sure was the fact that he would meet his son one day. Kushina had been fondly caressing the photograph on her young son's hand with her soft hands. The Uzukage had recently sent her a picture of Naruto dressed in his junior uniform, a tanto fixed on his back and his face covered by a face mask. He looked so handsome, yet at the same time, she didn't miss the cold, hollow eyes that stared at her from the picture. It were the eyes of someone who had never experienced love, and the fact, too, was forgotten with the sands of time. What he was looking at now was a determined and devoted assassin whose only reason for existence was to serve those Umakis, live for the village, die for the village. Her son had sworn that oath when he took up that uniform. Such a path to violence and darkness was not something that she had wished for him, and yet it happened. It was not as if she had tried to break him away from it. It was a complete opposite. She had sent so many letters, pictures of her and Minato, and so many more presents on his birthday, and she only received silence in return. All these years, right up to, she had never cursed her destiny as a Jinchuriki so much as today, to lose the most precious thing in her miserable existence. Naruto had been one good thing that happened to her, and she threw him away. She had to fight harder, made more efforts. If she could only have done that, her son would be alive today. Due to her and Minato's mistakes, Naruto lived a lonely life, devoid of family, and in the end, he died alone. She could still remember the dark night when the Ambu squad forcefully took her child away from her. The Hokage and the Uzukage had witnessed the exchange with a complete professional look in their eyes. The teen-aged Minato had also been standing beside Jiraiya. Unlike Kushina, he was not crying. Instead, had his eyes closed, his fist clenched so tightly, and he never looked at her despite her pleas for help. The last memory of the dark night that she remembered was Naruto's crying voice, and then something hit her, followed by darkness. Her only reason to exist now was to destroy the ones who had killed her son, and she would live for her daughter. She could only use every ounce of her power and hatred to inflict carnage upon those three cowardly village who destroyed her clan, her people, her village, and her son. The walls cracked due to the killing intent that she had been radiating, and it would have only escalated further if it was not for a series of rapid knocks on her door. Snarling, she got up and started walking towards the door. Hadn't she told those damn annoying Onbus that unless there was a mission, she was not to be disturbed? I told you to leave me alone. Kushina couldn't complete her words as she saw the person standing at her doorstep with a wide, innocent smile on her face. You. Narcissus stood on top of one of the large sand dunes, currently lying steadily in the sand. He simply observed the large structure before him. Ada was beside him, and the two of them were waiting for the bright moon in the sky to hide for a while. In that moment, they attacked. Ada had been silent all this time, only taking Naruto's response. It only had been 3 days since their attack in the Fire Nation, and the flames of war would now engulf the two great nations tonight. Why is this world so twisted, Ada? She would have missed his question if she was not so alert right now. Even then, those words coming from Naruto of all people surprised her. Ada turned towards him and saw a vulnerable look in his eyes. I wonder if my actions will change anything in the world, or will they just be meaningless as my own existence? asked Naruto. Naruto, Ada said worriedly. I want to see peace through force. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I want to believe that what I'm doing right now will make people understand each other, said Naruto, his voice soft and expression numb. I think people can only understand things that they've actually experienced, suggested Ada, and saw a smile on Naruto's face. I understood what loneliness meant, and I know what happiness and sadness means, what revenge means, what hatred means, and but I still don't know what peace means, Ada confessed Naruto, making her smile. Neither does the world, Naruto, suggested Ada, giving him an encouraging smile. Then I want to learn what peace is and teach it to the world as well. That's why, even if the world rejects me, I'll keep on fighting, keep on moving forward. Promise Naruto. Naruto blinked when Ada gently intertwined her hand with his. He turned towards her and saw a strange light burning in her eyes. He froze when she looked back at him. Then, let's fight together to earn peace. Both of them shared a firm nod. Ada was startled when Naruto pulled her towards him, wrapped his arms around her. She placed her hands on his back. I'm never letting you go. No words could describe how happy and satisfied she felt on hearing him say that. She knew the terror that she had experienced when she was captured by those Konoha scum, and she could only try to imagine what Naruto felt. He was the leader of the group, of the survivors, and he may not admit that out loud, but deep down he considered himself responsible for all those deaths. People often mistook him for the most strongest person in their team, while as a shinobi he was, but as a human, he was the weakest of the trio. Naruto, Orochi, and Ada had been the closest thing he had to a family. You're not getting rid of me that easily, Naruto teased Ada as he gently broke the hug. He stood back on his feet and calmly observed the large Suna dam in front of them. The modern invention was one of Suna's most crucial assets that was the lifeline of nearly 20% of its population, and Naruto was aware of the consequences of a direct attack on this place. For a few seconds, his grip on his tanto wavered as he tried to imagine the kind of suffering he would inflict on this world. Reforms, no matter how great or small, are never painless or without sacrifice. Ada saw his trembling stop as he took a deep breath. Naruto's blue eyes glanced at the darkness of the night. You guys may be satisfied with this world, but I'm not. With those determination words, Naruto Uzumaki, dressed in his uniform of Konoha Anbu, now placed a bird mask on his face. Sharing one glance with his fellow partner, he charged towards the dam. Ada quickly performed a set of hand seals and bit her thumb. Following that, she slammed her right hand on the sand, summoning Jutsu. The blue-haired girl soared quickly into the dark sky as a vulture carried her higher and higher. Large creature easily camouflaged itself in the darkness skies as Ada pointed her hand forward. At last, we must support him. Sync with me, commanded Ada, and joined their hands together. The large predator bird clawed in response, signifying its acceptance of the order. Ada started channeling her chakra into the summoning as the bird quickly started flapping its wings wildly. On the ground, appeared Suna Sunin, guarding the outskirts of the dam, saw a huge sandstorm brewing at the distance. Tell the others to take the shelter, instructed a senior tuning. Will do, man. What a mess. I'll inform the other engineers to take protective measures to safeguard the water, suggested another tuning. You do that. I'll inform the guards not to mess around in the storm. This can be quite deadly. Roger that. As soon as the tuning went off his orders, the senior turned back to only see a human figure emerge from the shadows. Slash! A permanent horrified expression on the Sunni's face as his head was severed off before he could even scream a warning. Naruto quickly took a cover behind the walls of the dam as the blood of now the dead Junin started drenching the sand. Most people didn't know was the fact that he had been one of the candidates selected to be a part of the Uzakage's first Anbu force. Only the Uzakage and his fellow few aides knew this fact, apart from the shinobi who were chosen for this unit. Unfortunately, their training was never completed and the village was destroyed. You could only imagine how things could have been if Uzu had developed an Anbu force just before its last moments. It was one of their grave errors. Regardless of those mistakes, it didn't change the fact that Naruto had skills and intelligence to perform assassinations and infiltration missions. Talents he would be using tonight. He raised two fingers and four shadow clones appeared in front of him and beside him. All of those had a same cold, calculated look on their eyes. The enemy is taking shelter from the sandstorm it is creating, but he can't maintain it for too long. We only have 5-minute window to execute our mission, instructed the real Naruto. Should we go and eliminate the enemy forces, they'll be easy to kill now that they're hiding in shelters, says they're one of the clones. That will take too much time, warned the other clone. The longer we take, the more of Ada's chakra will get used up. We must keep her in mind as well, informed another clone. If we attract too much attention, then the Suna forces will follow us and we'll simply get trapped between theirs and Konoha forces, warned the last clone. Before any of them could further discuss their plans, their original creator took out four scrolls from his pouch and handed them each one. Spread out to all directions, placed them across the points, informed Naruto, and pointed the directions on the map. Now, the clones quickly started steadily running in the different directions to accomplish their objectives. Naruto placed his own scroll near one of the dam's giant walls. He then placed his communication device on his ear. Ada, how are you doing? Asked Naruto worriedly. It's taking more chakra than I expected, but I can go on, insisted Ada, making her friend grimace. Understood, said Naruto in reply. As soon as he cut off his link, he cautiously looked around for any signs of the Suno forces. He saw the sandstorm which Ada was generating with her summons help closing towards the dam closed slowly and slowly. Since it was an actual event rather than an illusion, it had been enough to convince the Suno forces that they were not under attack and had calmly taken shelter. The sand village had been on edge for the past few days, since Konoha was building up a massive armed battles near their borders. However, since they were an ally, no official battle had been initiated by the sand. With this, all bets would be off the table. War will be inevitable, thought Naruto. He didn't like what he was doing, but deep down, some part of his heart knew that this was wrong. Yet, he couldn't stop. He refused to be a part of the Sengen world where humanity was out of control. War would never be eradicated. That much was certain. What he was doing was the limit of its occurrence and the need for it. Ninjas were mercenaries who fought for money, resources, and for their own desires, except for a selected few. Most of the ninjas were dishonorable and rather worse than scum. It was a lifelong mission to eliminate such wars, thugs, and bring forth nations. Military and citizens were more responsible, compassionate, and understanding towards each other. It had been easier said than done, but he knew it was impossible, and if it could be done, then he was willing to bear every sin of the world for that dream of peace. All charges set. The voice of his clones over the communication channel felt like hammer of gods descending from the heavens. Easy to kill people when you're out of control, but extremely difficult when you're completely in control of yourself. Nobody knew that this fact better than Naruto. Many people had lost their lives when his eye had awakened and ran wild. Even as an assassin, he had killed people. But what he was about to do now was something much larger and destructive. He was initiating a war between two nations that will lead to death, destruction, sorrow, and the loss of millions of people. In the end, he was not different from the ninja thugs whom he loaded. She was shocked by the fact that he had been fine with living in such a twisted world as he was safe. But when that had changed, he had changed too. It made him realize how wrong the World War was, how wrong he had been, and despite everything, the world needed a change. Arashi had been right in a way. You can understand these things once he experienced that pain. For people to understand each other, they had to realize their mistakes, like him, just like the slaughter of his clan. To Naruto his mistakes. He would even try to teach the world these errors. He quickly started retreating away from the damn borders, and soon enough raised two fingers slowly. Boom. A large corner of his eyes, he saw the structure starting to collapse and the war is spreading in every possible direction. The cries of the horde of Atsuna ninjas and the civilians rang in his ear. Ada had been waiting for him at the end, and the sandstorm was, along with her summon, had stopped as he watched the destruction that had inflicted on the entire nation with their actions. We did it, didn't we? Asked Ada hesitantly. Yes, replied Naruto, his gaze fixed on the dark sky. If you fight, people die. If you don't, even when they die, I guess it's true. There is no right or wrong in this world, confessed Ada. Naruto's eyes widened as his sensory powers warned him of something massive approaching the ray. Turning around, his worst fears finally came true as he quickly brought up his tanto forward to block a strike from a grinning man. You're damn right, brats.